Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Learning Collective sessions. We are about to begin our second session of today with Andrew Hughes from Designing Digitally. I'm Ann Wynn, marketing specialist here at Risk, and we're very thrilled to have Andrew, who is not only a friend, but who we have done some work with as well in the past for Risk itself,
Aw.
to present about immersive learning in the future of the workplace. As you can see, Andrew is an avatar as we are all making adjustments to working from home. Unfortunately, his webcam is gone, dead, kiboshed. And so, but the important thing is that you will be able to see his very wonderful, great presentation. And so we are going to get started. I'm going to read you just a quick, brief introduction about Andrew, if you're not familiar with him. Andrew Hughes founded Designing Digitally in 2001 and has extensive experience in the development of enterprise immersive learning solutions for government and many of the Fortune 500 companies. He's a professor at the University of Cincinnati and has been a consultant for the Ohio Board of Regents and the U.S. Department of Education for the Office of Innovation, where he's helped to develop groundbreaking learning spaces for the K through 12 sector. Andrew was also named 2016 Learning Champion from eLearning Magazine and has won over dozens of learning and training awards with his team at Designing Digitally, Inc. And so we are going to have his Prezi today talk about how to create a flexible and technology-enabled learning ecosystem that can foster future generations in the workforce, especially with the struggle for a competitive edge that many companies have in today's environment. And so let me bring up your presentation, Andrew. Here we go.
Yay! All right. Hello, everyone. First off, thank you, Ann, for the great introduction. And my apologies to everyone for not being on a webcam. What has taken place is I actually have my laptop at the office, and I had my old laptop here, and apparently it decided to overheat. So the only thing I have is a microphone on a headset on my desktop at home. So, and if it makes you feel any better, I'm in a t-shirt and shorts, so I actually look better in my avatar picture than I actually probably do in real life anyways right now. So it's probably better to see me this way. But my apologies, and if at any time anyone wants to nerd it up through video chat, I promise next time I will have that ready to go. So first, I do want to express thank you for setting this up, especially with the team at Risk. You guys have been great, and we have been partners on quite a few different initiatives across different industries together, along with partnering on internal and external efforts. And it's always been a pleasure. And I tell everyone, if you need an LMS and you need data analytics and you need to be able to track your learner progression, Risk is a great place to go for that stuff. And Duncan and Art will take care of you guys. So with that said, what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is what we're doing at Designing Digitally, but also I want to talk about immersive learning, and especially now that we're all sitting at home figuring out how to connect with each other, I'm going to talk about immersive spaces, especially in the virtual reality realm. And the reason why is I see that we have kind of some definitions within inside of our industry that I would like to clarify. That is 360 video versus 3D spatial, virtual reality types of devices, and when and why they can be used and stuff like that. So I was hoping we could do that and talk a lot about that, because what I have been participating in is actually meetings and experiences with inside of VR, since it's now able to be done with multiplayer, as simple as the Oculus Go, all the way up to using the brand new HTC Cosmos, and everything in between. And we'll talk a lot about that, okay? But the first thing that I do want to start with is, if you can see my screen, this is a quote from Albert Einstein: "Learning is an experience, everything else is just information." So the one thing that I do want to talk about here is we have two fundamental pieces with inside of training in the corporate and in the government and an adult learning space. We have experiential learning, and we have information dumps. And the problem is it's all roped together, and we really haven't clarified those two things. But a great example is I don't trust an electrical engineer to go out and change a transformer if they've just read the book on how to do it. I trust them if they've actually went out and experienced doing it and either got hands-on or it got to the point where they could immersively do the action and learn how to do the action rather than just being told how to do the action. And so what I want to talk about is how VR can do that and how we can actually make that a real thing for us, and also hoping that we can separate what I consider to be the lower levels of blooms, things like remembering or just understanding, those things where we just need to get that information in front of the learner as actual just data of information, or make an informational module, not an experiential module. And maybe we can figure out a way to define that as a community, maybe not today, but something we need to think about. So before I start, I really want to talk about what is actual virtual reality. One of the things that I find very fascinating is the fact that human beings use our eyes for our primary sense. So what does that mean? You can actually trick the eye, and that's why people see illusion and magic, and really question if that was real or not, and question how they did it, because they're able to understand that our primary sense is sight. And so VR plays into that big time. And since it's our primary sense, we can really use this to provide environments and spaces in which they could see within inside of the real world, so they could practice in a safe environment. And the biggest thing is there's all these different types of VR devices, and we're going to talk about each one of these types of devices and what the cost benefits and the goods and bads and the uglies are. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about power of visuals. So first, starting out, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this BBC research video, but I will explain it as it's going here. What this is a social experiment to show how your eyes actually are the primary sense that you use when understanding your environment around you. So what this scientist has done is he did an experiment on the boardwalk where he set up a rubber mallet and put her hand behind a cardboard. And what happens is they're going to brush her hand with a brush and the plastic hand at the same time. What will happen is her brain visually will associate that hand as her hand. And what they do to prove that is they smack the hand with a rubber mallet, and her reaction is to pull her hand away, which results in an understanding that the primary reaction is sight, even for the defense mechanism of fight or flight. And so you will see as they're doing this, they're just brushing lightly, and then in just a second, he's brushing her fingers, then the same way he's brushing the plastic finger at the same time. When they do that down, what happened is she pulls her hand away, and she gets terrified, because what has happened is that social, or that interaction between the brain has associated that rubber mallet hand with her hand, which is fascinating, because that means that something like VR can actually allow us to really train in a space and an environment that we just not had the opportunity to do. But before we talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about neuroplasticity. For all of you that don't know, neuroplasticity is the habits that you've made have created neurons and have created firing pins within inside of your brain that carve pathways to habits and forms different routes in which the neurons fire within inside of your brain. It's also how you break habits. So let's talk a little bit about how gaming actually impacts gamers and impacts individuals learning. And let me see if there's the volume on this bad boy. I want to make sure we have the volume. Maybe we don't. Well, I'll actually explain it if the volume, there we go.
Andrew, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt here. I know there's an audio control, and I think it's when we first popped in this screen share, so we can certainly take it out and have you redo it if the audio
Oh,
is
are they
absolutely
hearing it?
necessary. No, not on
Okay.
our end.
Well, you know what? I'll just actually, I'll just explain it then. That's
Okay,
even
great.
easier. Okay.
Thank you.
So looking at this, there have been studies. They played Super Mario for 30 minutes a day for 2 months. Okay. Afterwards, they looked at this and they saw increases of gray matter in memory, strategic planning, and fine motor skills compared to people that didn't. These are awesome results for mental disorders because they can use video games to actually use as a therapy to increase those areas. Also, gamers are really big into intentional detail. People that play gaming actually are able to understand better color and able to keep up with different colors. And what you're able to do is, if you are a gamer, you would be able to read these words out loud without actually messing up the color. And if you noticed, it's harder and harder. There's a conflict between the word and the color. So if you play more than 5 to 10 hours a week, you can actually solve that and distinguish that between somebody that doesn't. And the reason why is you're more efficient with regions of the attention area and the actual color area within inside of your brain compared to other people that play things like Call of Duty, so on and so forth. They're also really well used in a small study that dyslexia actually can be helped and improved by playing fast games such as Call of Duty and things like that. And then the eyesight thing that I was talking about just a minute ago is we find that gamers can actually see better gray, so tones of different colors, and also can perceive movement and things in movement faster than other individuals. So it's something that they find that you can have improved movement. Or improved information from your brain and improvement in your eyesight just by using video games. So I'll pause there and I kind of move on to the next slide because what I want to talk a little bit about is why would I talk about virtual reality with inside of immersive learning spaces? Here's actually why. If all of you remember, this, at least for me, being almost to my 40s, what I can tell you is this was my fundamental understanding of what a video game was when I was growing up. And what you're seeing with inside of the workplace is a constant struggle for keeping people's attention already. And the reason they state that is because we grew up on video games and we're now in a world of instant gratification. Now, I state that because this is my son, my 5-year-old son, actually playing VR himself. And what I would like to let you guys all know is this is and will be his standard of video gaming. So, what does that mean? This is going to be a medium that doesn't just go away. It's going to be a medium that we're actually going to be using across the board for even things like these meetings, for presentations, for training, for collaboration. And what a better way to utilize things like this, but when we're in a lockdown like we are right now. So how is this actually use as a learning tool? Well, the first thing that I want to ask you guys is, do you know at all, and I'll kind of put this out, and you can kind of throw out some answers if you're in here, is workers will forget up to blank percentage of what they just learned in a month without revisiting material if it's just presented to them. So what does that mean when they sit down in the classroom and we just present this information? What does that mean for this presentation? You're probably going to forget blank percentage of what I am telling you today, based on the fact that I'm just presenting it to you. Does anyone want to take a guess in a percentage of what they think that information actually is? Anyone? Do I have any question? Any in the chat? Oh, we're getting some answers now. What do you guys think? Well, believe it or not, you'd actually be pretty surprised on what you're going to see here. With inside of a particular presentation presentation style, what you're finding is 90% of it is forgotten within the first month after training. 70% within a day of the training. For them to walk away, they forget 70% of the material. And then 50% within an hour of the training being over with. So when they leave at 5 o'clock from your all-day training session, and if it was 8 hours, they only remember 4 hours of the content material right off the bat. So I want to state that and show you that because there are people that have taken advantage of the VR experience rather than just presenting material, so that they can be in an immersive way of actually experiencing what they need to do for their jobs rather than just being told what they need to do for their jobs. And the first one that I want to show you is what Delta has done. Delta has actually, prior to the implementation of wireless VR systems, they took the HTC Vive and the Leap Motion device and connected them together to actually make VR training simulations for people working with inside of the aircraft, so that they could actually practice without holding up an aircraft or stopping an aircraft or utilizing an actual aircraft for this training. And what this does is it allows them to learn immersively what to do before they go out there without having to have that equipment in front of them. And in regards to this, they can produce more output of training with these individuals than they could, or a throughput of more individuals than they could when they had to set aside planes. So this has actually been a great utilized tool for them, even though it is now dated, and you could do all of this without all of that equipment. It's fascinating to see as the first adopters on how VR was really used, and it's excellent to see how it was used for training. So let's talk a little bit about virtual reality and what options there are. I like to look at it like there's a low, a medium, and a high level of this, okay? Currently, the low, medium, and high allow for the different types of solutions, hardware and software options. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what those options are right now and let you guys kind of see which one is going to work best for you. Okay, so we'll start with the low end solutions. The first real low end option for you is the 360 video, Google Cardboard, or what they call Samsung VR, but it's actually should be called Samsung 360. I really have a pet peeve with Samsung naming it their headset that. But what this is basically 360 videos that are recorded with 360 cameras. And those could be anything from the Samsung 360 camera to the Ricoh Beta or Theta, or the, there's a ton of 360 VR cameras. But basically what it does is it puts it, as you can see here, as split screen, so that when you flip this up and you're looking at this, you can look around, but you can't really do much other than maybe click the one little button that's on your phone to maybe jump to another 360 video. But it's not going to give you the fidelity or allow you to grab something and turn it on or turn it off. It's basically a video that you can see as if you were standing in that space. And these, you can get these cardboard pieces off of Amazon for no more than $5 a piece, and fold these together and put your phone in it. And it works pretty well for just wanting a 360 video experience. Then you have some of the medium types of solutions. In these medium efforts, they are still utilizing your phone. They are still 360 videos. The biggest difference is with Samsung's, it has the Gear VR that they built. You actually have the ability to use Bluetooth and have a couple option buttons if you want to have clickable things. And it also allows for apps if you wanted to have like a 3D immersive or like a VR app, it would put it in split screen again for you. And to give you kind of an idea, it is clunky, it doesn't work very well, and it still doesn't align up very well, and it's still using your phone, which is not going to give you a bunch of processing power. However, this is a quick example of just some of the quality coming out of it. What you're looking at here is basically a video of them loading the Titanic and going through the story of you being on one of the boats as the Titanic is sinking. And the biggest thing is this was done as in a video game engine, but it's basically a video so that you can see it in first person. And so you can do something like this and have it relate and set to your phone. But just take into consideration that there's limited interactivity. So if you wanted to teach somebody how to make the perfect wings at your restaurant or something like that, understand that you're just looking at a video and not necessarily looking at an immersive spatial piece that they can do. And with those lower to medium ends, if you were going to make some of those yourself, you can do this cost effectively. I think like this, the Samsung Gear 360 that does like 1080p is around $100 to $150 on Amazon. So it's something you can use. The Ricoh Theta is one of my favorites. It comes out for pretty good quality. I don't mean to do that, sorry. And all of these you can search Amazon. You don't need to buy a $5,000 camera right off the bat. You should probably buy one of these cost-effective ones. Learn how to use that video material with inside of some of the things that you do, especially if you want to make like a 360 clickable story walkthrough. And one of the great things is if you have Adobe, the Master Suite, if you have an Adobe account and you have After Effects, the really cool part is if you import your video now from After Effects into After Effects or Premiere, it actually recognizes that as a 360 video, and you can actually then in that 360 video part put text overlays of things in particular areas or spots on the video, so that you can give data overlays, almost like AR overlays of information while the video is playing. If you wanted to do that, you can do so, and that would be something you can do from just the $150 camera and the monthly fee for the Adobe license for either Premiere or After Effects to be able to create those 360 videos to be used in, let's say, your training module or on YouTube or so on and so forth. Not only that, but there's some interactive tools that you can actually use that are very beneficial to these low and medium ranges if you want to work on it yourself. There's A-Frame. A-Frame is an open source framework that has been built for basically 360 and VR and immersive experiences for the web. And so this is something that we use quite often if we're going to make like a virtual tour, or we're going to make a onboarding experience so they can get up to speed before they come into the office, things like that. And A-Frame works out very well for that. But there's also many others. There's Babylon.js, but this in my opinion is the second best one because it does have full integration of WebGL already. It allows for a little more complex framework than what A-Frame can do because it's actually built as a complex engine, and it's all built in JavaScript. So that's why it's Babylon.js is one that I would strongly suggest taking a look at, especially for the development side. And we'll talk a little bit about now, what do we have for high-end solutions? First off, this is a dated picture, so I will show you the old picture that I have, where we have the Samsung VR, the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, but now we have new builds. So in 2019, here's our little collection of builds. We have things such as the Oculus Quest. Here we have the HTC Cosmos. We have the HTC Vive Pro, and we have quite a few others. But the really cool part, and we're also missing the Oculus Go's on these too. So we have a couple Oculus Go's, which are only around $150. But all of these, again, different platforms, different systems, but allow us to have that immersive experience. And based on exactly what you're looking for, any one of these can be a great option for you. So let's talk a little bit about what is 3D spatial VR. This is the VR that you saw my son doing. This is the VR where you saw Delta built. This is the VR where you actually can interact in a 3D environment rather than just looking at pictures. The first one that I want to show, and this is actually, I think, 3 or 4 years old now. We actually developed out what's called VR Chop and Drop for one of our customers. This was built for a gas and energy company, and what it is actually training on being an electrical line worker. And one of the parts was to develop out cutting the trees in a residential location. And so what we actually did is developed out that training simulation for the customer, and then requested, is there any chance we could take the tree cutting section and develop this out for free for people to just mess around with and see what is possible? And we did, and we actually put it on Steam. And so it's free for anybody to try out, just to play. You can download it if you have a VR headset at home, like an HTC Vive or an HTC Quest or anything like that. Or not, that's an Oculus Quest, an HTC Cosmos. And what you'll be able to do is actually log into Steam and download this game for free, and you can play it as much as you would like. And we are finding that this 3D spatial experiences allow for not just things that you would be doing on work. We're actually building out consumer side things also, to where we are building out day-to-day, day in the lives of, and what does it take to change a tire? What does it take to do this? What does it take to do that? Because there's some people that may have never been trained on it. So we are building consumer side VR experiences also. And if you noticed, I want to show you this. This is done with the Quest, and you can actually now have detailed hand movements with the Quest and hand tracking. And we're going to be talking about some of that here in just a minute. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, well, what do you guys build in? First off, what I can tell you is there's a couple major gaming engines that work very well. The first one is the Unreal Engine. This is one of the oldest and has basically carved our way in the gaming side of how interfaces and how the engine would work. There now is a free to play version until you go commercial, and then you have to purchase a license. There's also the Hero engine. This engine was really used a lot in the early 2000s, especially for gaming development, but it's still around and is an engine that can be used for different developments. And then one of my personal favorites is the Unity gaming engine. And the reason why is it's got a great following, a great community, and the founder, Dave Helgeson, has done a great job of building up basically free to use until you go to export out for commercial licensing versions. And then I'm always asked, well, where do you get your 3D models? Well, I can tell you a lot of times we build them. So you would need, if you were going to develop out, a 3D spatial VR experience, you do need, a programmer, a game developer, and a game artist, and probably a graphic designer, and somebody, an instructional designer, write the storyboards, and a voiceover talent and sound effects person, so on and so forth. But to do the 3D modeling, you could use any one of these, anything from 3D Studio Max to Maya, which is Autodesk now. Blender's an open source version in which you guys can download and try out yourself to make 3D models, which I really like because it's open source and free. And before we go any further, I want to talk a little bit about motion tracking, because one of the things that I see that has become very popular alongside of VR is actually motion tracking of human beings. The first one that you're seeing is actually a project that we built alongside a partnering company on a grant project for the National Institute of Health, in which this is training utilizing motion tracking of this individual or this patient doing their occupational therapy. And what is happening is we're tracking all the points of their body movement and comparing that each and every time to the last time that they played this particular game. And what ends up happening is we're actually able to see how well the therapy works for this individual and how much we have improved his 6 degrees of axis of movement from the first to the last time, along with his coordination abilities. And I tell you this because he could have had a VR headset on, but at this point, what we did is we just took the VR headset to where he doesn't have to wear it, but he can actually just do this on a TV if he doesn't want to wear the headset. And another motion tracking example that I want to show you is something that we've been doing with the Leap motion device. And what this is it's built for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And they've integrated the Leap motion, which is a small motion tracking device for your hands. And we have developed these immersive experiences that allow them to virtually look around in the VR space at these blade servers, and then also use their hands to repair, pull them apart, put them back together. And what you're looking at is just one of the step-by-step guides on how to pull one of the blades. But what you're seeing is they're not using their keyboard or mouse. They've put their hands above and over their computer, and the Leap Motion device has been integrated into their laptop by HP. And so they use this to actually control all these simulated learning experiences. So you can see how the learn by doing and even having them physically do it will allow them to learn it more, especially from that first quote that you saw from Einstein. And the really cool part, and this is just brand new actually, this is called the Hands Physics Lab. It's by actually a developer, and what they have done is they've taken motion tracking to another level. So this is VR, but it's actually using those hand motion devices that I was talking about, and now does detailed finger to finger, and allows for more than just what we had with the prior controllers. So it's fascinating to see we can use just our tips of our fingers. We can pick things up with and wipe, and our fingers go with it. We can knock. We weren't able to do a lot of this until now, which allows us to really get a high fidelity of that material when doing these VR or immersive learning experiences. So just imagine what we're going to see within the next year. And with these social separation pieces, we may be all sitting in headsets from here on out. So that talks a little bit about that 3D spatial virtual reality, which is, again, the ability for you to interact with inside of a 3D environment and see reactions from the 3D environment. One of the other major things that we've been doing is a lot of times we're asked, well, how can we prove that this is actually of value, and how do we prove that this has actually become something that allows us to prove that we see the performance? One of the things that we do is in each one of the projects that we've been building is we do our XAPI coding, and we do provide dashboards over tracking performance results within inside of each one of the experiences that we do. That way, you're able to be provided an actual dashboard to see the performance of each and every time a learner or learners complete a particular objective, and we actually work side by side with you to determine those objectives when we're actually going to start building out one of these immersive learning experiences. And so I show you this just because, it's cool for people to be able to build out learning experiences, but unless they can prove to you why this works, it really, and how this works, it really doesn't solve your challenge. So again, why VR, and what will it actually do? Based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, according to them, we currently have 722 workplace deaths in 2015, resulting from just equipment and harmful substances, things like that. So just imagine if we were to actually train these people into VR, we could have 722 people still alive from workplace accidents. And that's, again, 2015 results. Just imagine how that is concentrated and went up with this whole information dump rather than presentation material. Believe it or not, one of the things that we have found is that by using VR, we're seeing a $2,000 in savings per training program based on reductions of insurance and injury-related costs with one of our customers. And it's been fantastic. And then we're also seeing that it's been a 15-minute reduction time per employee for the builds that we did with KFC, which allowed them to actually train employees on how to simulate building out their food. So where do I go with all of this? Again, comes back to what I was stating from Albert Einstein. Learning is an experience. Everything else is just information. So taking into consideration that VR is here to stay, immersive learning is becoming ever more popular, especially with social distancing, that it's a great time to look at VR as an option. However, it's not the only option. As you saw from some of the motion tracking pieces, there's no reason we need to do VR if we can wheel in a TV and those individuals don't want to put on a headset. So you got to be able to build solutions that provide for branching options for people to take these and experience them. So what should you do actually to be able to kind of start or get to the next point? What I can tell you is we have a ton of different resources. We have white papers on all of the VR experiences, what's the best practices, how to get started, what devices are the best options for 2020, all of that material, along with proof and ROI of all of that data under infographics that'll tell you, what's the adoption rates, what industries are using it and why, and how. All of that stuff can be found on infographics page on our website, along with we have a daily blog that is tailored around what VR is doing in the workplace. So take a look at our blog at designingdigitally.com/blog, because you'll find quite a few very relatable articles to this topic for you to take a look at. And then last but not least, if you guys do need anything and need some assistance on the VR side, you can always go to designingdigitally.com/consultation and fill that out. And we can meet with myself and one of our learning solution specialists to see what we can do to kind of brainstorm with you and kind of help you through some of your challenges. And with that said, I do want to say thank you so much. If anyone wants to actually contact me, here's my contact information. You can email me at andrew.hughes@ddinc.mail.org, or you can call me at the office at 866-316-9126. Again, 866-316-9126. And until we speak again, stay creative.
Thank you, Andrew. That was a great presentation. I was really interested in all of the different solutions that you had shared regarding the VR tools. Now, I know you mentioned the game with the tree cutting game, and you mentioned a link to access it. If you will give me the link, I'll share it here so others can access it.
Yeah, let me grab it real quick for you guys.
For us right now while we are practicing safe distancing from one another.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking, is at least somebody would want to go out on Steam and go have some fun. So let me get
and
it
you don't
right
have to
now.
have it right now. I just thought I would ask about it. I made a note to ask in case any of the viewers were interested in it. And I love the fact that you shared the different low-end or high-end solutions, because often folks think, oh, I've got to go out and buy a $5,000 piece of equipment to get started on a project or to get started with VR training content. And that's not the case. And you clearly showed that and shared that with us. But probably the easiest way to get started with a VR training content project would be to contact Designing Digitally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are looking to do one of these efforts, my strong advice is to at least give us a call, even if you're going to do it on your own. And to do so, you can go to designingdigitally.com, how to reach us and do consultation. And what we'll do is we'll set up a consultation to discuss what you're aiming to do with our team, and myself included, so that we can kind of help you through and guide you through what you guys are aiming to do.
Awesome. And we'll share all the links that you had shared as well as a way to contact you. And I believe you're a fairly active Twitter user too. So we can find you on Twitter at Andy Hughes.
Yes, you're right. Somebody took Andrew Hughes already, so I had to go with the short form.
Isn't
I'm
that
also on
horrible?
LinkedIn. You can find me more on LinkedIn than anything because I we've talked about it a couple times. I'm going hiatus from like Facebook and others because I want to make sure that I stay focused during this time, to make sure that we can do everything we can to keep people moving and keep life good for the team that we have here. So I've been kind of MIA on social media lately.
Absolutely. And LinkedIn is a great place to connect with you. And I'll be sure to include the link. And if you guys want to be able to connect with all of the experts, including Andrew today, that we have had in our sessions this week, you are welcome to go to risk-inc.com/learning-collective, /meet the experts. I'll include the link. But everyone is listed on there, including the links on ways to connect with our industry leaders who have been so gracious to share their knowledge and information this week on the Learning Collective sessions. And thank you very much to you, Andrew, for taking the time out of your day to do this session for us. This was definitely very interesting and gives us food for thought, especially during this time where we have had to make that shift into more virtual training solutions.
Uh, there's a couple things that I can relate to as a business owner. Um, Use group chats as much as possible. Don't make separate group chats. Keep the same group chat. Use the same group chat. And then second, be patient. Some
Yes.
people's technical aptitude is different than others, and it's not age ranged. I have found people that are, that are old enough to be my grandfather that are much more technically aptitude than somebody that just graduated from college. So it's not an age thing. It's a willing to learn thing and how exposed to technology thing. So be patient with people, and also have some fun. We're all stressed out. We're all scared. We all don't have the answers, and everybody's looking at everybody else for answers. And nobody has that yet. And if you guys remember the Michael Scott episode where they were going to close the branch, so he played the murder mystery, and they all played the murder mystery to keep their mind off of all the terror outside of what it's about to happen. And so we all need to keep that in mind and just have some fun with each other while we're doing this virtual experience.
Absolutely. Thank you for those reminders because you're right. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're all in the same boat. We're all in this together. And I think we're all, giving each other a little more leeway.
Yep, yep. Now, with that said, thanks for being patient that I don't have a camera. I'm sorry.
No, it worked out perfectly because you are a very dynamic presenter, and so we
Uh-oh.
love seeing the avatar on the side. And I think you were already used to doing so, having taught classes at the university. And now I wanted to share that you were teaching preschool.
Yes, I am. I'm actually officially a non commissioned preschool teacher, which is cool because our teacher, I got a hats off to all the teachers that are in the K through 12 system that are trying to make it work right now because I know it's tough. And what I can say is the stuff that has been sent by Mrs. Fenton at Monroe Primary School for my son has been excellent. Things like go outside and find me 6 pictures proving that it's spring, and find me triangles, as many triangles. You got to find a dozen triangles in nature, things like that are quite fascinating that I find that probably wouldn't have been done if it wasn't for these approaches. And for me, I find that great because sitting and just being told what to do didn't work well for me. So I think it works very well for my son.
Absolutely. Again, thank you very much for your time and for the wonderful, great information you shared in the session. If you missed this live, you are welcome to catch the replay. It will remain on the Risk Facebook company page for easy access at any time during the day or night, should you find yourself to be an insomniac. And if you would like to contact Andrew for more information, we will make sure to include all the links and ways to connect with him and his team at Designing Digitally. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.